Welcome back to Creative CEO. My name is Georgie Turner. I am an equestrian fine artist, and in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about packaging and shipping. If you're watching on YouTube, you might be wondering why I'm wearing the same clothes as I was for the last 3 weeks. It's because I have recorded 3 podcasts back to back in preparation for the upcoming weeks. When this podcast goes out, my sister will be getting married in about 2 weeks, which is crazy. So the day that I'm recording this, we're about 5 weeks out from the wedding. So I decided to record 3 podcasts back to back so that I've done at least 3 weeks worth of podcasts. Off the back of last week, where I talked about starting a business from scratch and how I would just get going, I thought I'd actually do a bit of a series about the basics on how you can get your creative business up and running and actually start selling to people. So if you've started building your portfolio, you've got your social media, maybe you've got your website going, maybe you haven't yet. At some point, whatever stage you're at, even if you're at the stage that I talked about last week, where all you need is to have passion, an online presence or something visible, a portfolio, and a way of contacting you, at some point, even if you've just got those in place, you are going to have to get your work to a person. So if you are selling your artwork or selling your products, you will at some point need to get your work to a person from your home, from your studio, shipped out to a person. And for me, the shipping is the scariest part, because you can do all you can to protect that work, but you are completely out of, you've got no control on how that work actually gets to that person. And I've done a lot of, if you have followed me or you've known what I've done before, I've done homewares as well as artwork shipping. So even if you are not an artist and you're listening to this and you've got a different creative business, this will still be relevant, because I have actually shipped out homewares before as well. And that's included like ceramics, it's included soft things and breakable things. So I've definitely got a lot of knowledge on packaging and shipping. So to get a good deal with your packaging, it's better to buy in bulk. And that obviously comes with some restrictions. If you haven't got much space to store boxes, or if you haven't got the funds to get boxes in bulk, but if you're sending out a lot of orders in time, definitely look at getting bulk, because whenever I've looked for packaging, they will always give you discounts for buying in bulk. Now, the packaging supplier that I use in the UK, I've used Kite Packaging, and I am really happy that I found them, because they haven't got absolutely everything that I need, but they've got a lot of things. And I essentially bought from them for my homewares. I bought 3 sizes of boxes. And when you are starting to consider what you're going to be selling, that's when you need to consider the box size of boxes as well. And it's the thing that I found difficult at the beginning is I had 3 sizes of boxes, and I had to think, what would people maybe buy? Would they buy 2 mugs? If they were going to buy 2 mugs, the medium-sized box feels far too big. So let's find a box that's slightly smaller that would fit 2 mugs in. Then I was thinking, but what if they buy 2 mugs and a print? The print isn't small enough to go in the bottom of the box with the mugs on top. So I would have to send them out in 2 parcels or put them in a slightly bigger box. So there are considerations to think about if you've got multiple products in your store. If you sell small products and they can go in a nice small, you say you're selling jewelry, like that would be the perfect size to be shipping out, because you can just put them in nice small flat boxes, and if you're using Royal Mail, you just only need the small parcel size. But if you're selling various items, you need to consider different size boxes to suit like what people might potentially buy. But if you're just starting out and you've only got like a small range of products, like I said, you want to start out with one thing and really niche down, just find a box that will fit your initial products that you're going to be selling. I remember doing a survey and asking about, would you mind if my items, is eco-friendly packaging important to you? And most of them said it is important, but it's not as important as the items arriving safely. And for me, that's important as well. Like, it would be very annoying to have beautiful eco-friendly packaging, but then a mug to break in the post because I haven't wrapped it up well enough. And that's not saying that you can't wrap things up with eco-friendly packaging and them not break, but you might not use as much packaging as you want to if you're trying to go down the eco-friendly route, and then things might still break. So you can experiment with lots of different packaging, but what I found works really well is the shredded paper. And you can also buy paper that almost mimics bubble wrap if you want to. I have used bubble wrap, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. Like, I've used bubble wrap, and especially when I've had bubble wrap for artwork, and then I've had big rolls that I've reused for mugs, because I'm like, I would much rather this get to my client, or my customer, sorry, safely, especially when I'm running out of stock and I can't replace it. Just have to give them a refund, and then that's on me. But I'd rather my products get to my clients in one piece. I've also found, this is a bit niche, but if you are selling mugs, I found the handles were I think I had a mug break once or twice in the post, and it was the handle that broke. So when you are packaging, if you're ever packaging anything that's got like little like bits hanging off like a handle of a mug, make sure the handles aren't banging together, because they're like the most, what's the word? They're the most fragile part. That's what I found. Yeah, so there's definitely eco-friendly ways of having filling. And what you want to make sure is, if you are packaging your boxes, you've basically filled the whole box. If you've got breakables, is making sure that, nothing can move about in there. Something you could do if you have got breakables, or if you have got particular items, is do a drop from height test. And this is how one of my mugs broke, is I did a drop from height test, and I literally packaged up my mugs in a box, and I stood on the sofa armchair, and I dropped it from height onto my laminate flooring, and one of the mugs broke. That's when I found out that the handle was the most fragile bit. So if you're prepared to just sacrifice a couple of your products and do a test, it is well worth doing, because once your box or your packaging leaves your home or your studio, just imagine nobody in the postal service cares about your product. They don't know what's in it. They don't care if you put fragile on it. It's not like, they don't care. And that's not their fault. That's just, they've got thousands and thousands of parcels to process. Just think to yourself, the people that take your parcels away, they don't care about what's in them. So you've got to do the best that you can to wrap them up as perfectly as you can, to minimize any damage. I've definitely mentioned this before, but if you are in the UK, you can get Royal Mail to collect your items, and it's just been a godsend. And there's some services on Royal Mail that you can't get at the post office. So by saving yourself a trip to the post office, just do all your postage online and get them to collect. I'm pretty sure other companies will do that too, but I'm very happy with Royal Mail in my area. I have two lovely postmen, and they come and get my parcels for me when I've done a collection, and they can bring your label for you as well. If you can't print the label, they can do that for you. I prefer to print the labels myself if I've got a mass collection of items to go away. If I have like more than 2 boxes, I will print them off myself, but you can get them to bring your label if you don't have a printer. So it's really nice and easy for whatever facility you have. If you are an artist that wants to post artwork, there are a few things that I would definitely advise you do. First of all, if you are posting something to the UK and it's over a certain size, like Royal Mail won't take certain sizes, so you have to look at other providers. I do use Parcel Force, which is Royal Mail's sister brand, I think, but the downside of posting artwork is a lot of the time they won't get insured, and I haven't really found a way around this yet. I've just been risking it and hoping for the best, but there's a lot of people just won't insure, like DPD won't insure artwork. Some companies actually won't allow you to send artwork whatsoever. DPD might be one of those. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but just make sure that whatever provider you want to try for posting like original pieces, for example, that you check what is prohibited, because for some reason they don't always allow artwork to be sent. Maybe it's because of the high value of them. But I've not had an issue with Parcel Force, touch wood. And I also try and encourage, if I can, if it's local enough, I will hand deliver expensive original pieces of art, because it just takes that risk away. And I would much rather just travel a couple of hours in the car than post it if possible. But I've actually used Ivory once to send some originals, because I asked my client what service is good in your area, because I know sometimes the services change like depending on your local area. So it's good sometimes to ask clients that if you're unsure which provider to go for. But yeah, when you're posting originals, I've done several videos on this and on my Instagram, but I now no longer post glass. And the reason that I don't post anything with a glass fronted frame on is because the artwork underneath, like, that's irreplaceable. You've done that piece of artwork and that artwork has taken you hours. All it takes is the glass to smash and then fall in and scratch the artwork. And then you've got a damaged frame and a damaged piece of artwork that you're going to have to redo. So I just thought it's going to cost my clients maybe like another £100 or so to get a frame sorted. But I would much rather the artwork that they've bought gets them safely. And some people might be annoyed about that, but personally for me, that's my business decision. Is I'd just much rather just not send anything with a glass front. I don't use acrylic fronts anymore. First of all, because it's got a bit of a reflection, and now that I've learnt about art glass, which I can come on to on another episode about framing, but it's got a bit of a reflection that I just don't want any more for my artwork. But it's also staticky. I don't know if that's a word. It's got static. So now that I've moved on to pastel, it just wouldn't work for my pastel work, because the pastel particles are still like living, like they're still alive. They're not stuck down. So they would just static against the acrylic. So I just don't do that anymore. So I just categorically don't post glass, and that's just my decision. You could package your parcels up so well with like foam board and everything to make sure it doesn't get broken, but I would just much rather not send it and give the customer the chance to go and get their own frame and take it to the framers. And also, framing is such a personal choice as well. I sold a piece of artwork to somebody and I said I had a frame for them, but they weren't keen on the frame that I had. Frames are so personal. I really like white frames in my house because, I don't know, I've just got white frames everywhere. Like pretty much everything that I have is in a white frame. So that's just my kind of personal preference. And some people like mirrored frames. Like it is quite personal, the framing. So I'm happy with my customers just to make that choice. For my commissions, I do send my items mounted, and the mount not only makes it look really nice and professional, but it does add another layer of protection. And the mount basically encases the artwork. So if there was a knock, because most likely if your artwork is going to get damaged, it's either going to get damaged on the corners when it's shipped, or it's going to get damaged from the top, like something being squished down on it. So it's unlikely to be like bent like in the middle, but it could easily be bent from the top, so you could have indents in it, and it could be bent from the sides. That's the most likely cause of damage. So when you're packaging up any artwork, I would make sure that you have got it sandwiched between two pieces of grey board. You can get some nice thick, I can't remember what the term is, like 3 micron. Make sure it's sandwiched between some thick grey board. So you've got your artwork, it could be in a mount, which gives it another layer of protection. Then you've got it sandwiched between some grey board, and I would always cut the grey board 3 centimeters wider, plus 3+ centimeters wider than the artwork or the mount, so that if there is a knock on the side, the grey board gets all the impact and no damage actually happens to the artwork. And then the grey board is then inside the cardboard, so you've got at least 2 or 3 layers of protection on either side of the artwork. And that's how I've been doing it recently. That's how I've also been shipping internationally, is by sandwiching them between lots of layers, basically. For international shipping, I have added extra protection, and I do sometimes bubble wrap them just because it's got that bit further to go, and it goes in a plane. And I don't know how these parcels are handled, but I've literally sent a parcel to America last week, and it was 2 pieces of artwork, and I had them facing each other. I had them in their mount boards in a plastic wrap facing each other, in between some grey board, in some bubble wrap, in some cardboard, and then another piece of cardboard. So there's 5 layers, I think. 4 or 5 layers. And if my customer says that they've come bent, I will be mortified. If you do want to ship internationally from the UK, then I always go on Transglobal Express. And I believe they're just like a middleman between, because when you put in the dimensions and the weight and the destination for that particular parcel, they will come up with various companies like USPS and FedEx and like the companies that you wouldn't normally see in the UK. So I would always go onto Transglobal Express and have a look on there. Flat versus rolled artwork. I have started rolling a lot of my prints for the UK as well, because I'm just going to show you on, if you're watching on YouTube, this is a tube that I use to put my prints in. I feel like the chance of a print getting squashed or damaged in a tube is a lot less than it is flat. Like, it is so hard. If you're watching on YouTube, if I squeeze that, I'm literally putting all my weight into that. It's not bent anything. And I think it helps because these ends, like, they reinforce the shape. Obviously, for your customer, there is like an extra level of work for them to do, but I believe that it's actually worth it, because if a print is rolled, even if something was on top of it and squished it a little bit, it wouldn't make like a bending crack and damage. It could still be like popped back in, but those tubes are so thick. I do trust that those are better protection than flat, but that doesn't stop me from sending artwork flat as well. It's just another option. And I have actually now created I now send them with this little slip, which I tie onto the packaging, so it's the first thing they see. And it says, how to flatten your art. Gently leave the glassine or tissue paper in place as it protects the surface. Lay the piece face down on a clean, flat surface. While it's tempting to admire your artwork right away, allow it to flatten first. Allowing it to flatten first will help you fully appreciate its beauty. Place 4 heavy books on each corner and leave it for 24 to 48 hours to settle. So it's like a nice slip saying, this is how you unflatten your artwork. And if people literally just unroll it and leave it face down with the paper in place to protect it and put 4 heavy books on it, within like a day, it'll be flat and it'll be undamaged. So I've started doing that a lot more. I have rolled original artwork before. Annoyingly, sometimes I don't get response from customers. Like if they've received a piece of artwork, if I haven't had any feedback, it means that everything's gone okay. Because personally, even me as a customer, like I don't respond to every single business and say, yes, I had your piece come through. I wouldn't do that because I don't have time to do that. But if there was something wrong, I would definitely do that. So I assume that the artwork that I've sent rolled got to my client safely. The only difference that I would do between a print being rolled and a piece of artwork being rolled is get a bigger tube. So this tube that I would use to send prints is about 6 centimeters wide. But if I was going to be sending a piece of artwork, I would want to find a tube that was more about 10 centimeters so that the actual roll of the paper isn't as tight. The other thing about rolling is the weight of the tube is a lot lighter than if you were packaging a flat package with lots and lots of layers. A cardboard box isn't going to be that heavy if you're putting artwork in it, but what is going to make the weight increase is the grey board and everything else like that you're packaging it in with. So it's more the weight than anything that increases the price of a shipping product. So that's just something to bear in mind. There's pros and cons to both. If it's nicer for your customer, if something arrives flat and pretty much ready to go to the framers, or if you were sending a frame to be hung on the wall, there's that kind of element of it's all done for them. But then you're having to think about there's a cost implication to you or to your customer, depending on whether you include shipping in your fees or not. You could do both and ask for feedback, see what they prefer, and see if they would pay more for shipping if you're going to do it flat so that they didn't have to roll it. Depends on what you want to do as your business. If you're selling smaller items, you've got it slightly easier for shipping because your boxes would be cheaper. There's a lot more range out there for smaller packaging. There's a company called the Tiny Box Company, and they don't just do tiny boxes, but their boxes are limited on size. But they've got such a nice range of packaging. And if you are shipping slightly smaller products, they would be a nice place to start for getting, you can get custom boxes made, but you can also get just nice like gift boxes, and then you can get the outer packaging as well. One thing I would say about if you're an artist and you're packaging artwork up is you don't have to have ready-made perfect boxes for your packaging. You don't have to go out there and spend money on boxes made for your size of artwork, especially if you're selling originals, and sometimes the originals, they're never the same size. So you don't want to go and spend money on a bulk load of 50 by 70 centimeter boxes and then never use them. What I would do is save the boxes from your materials order. So I love Jackson's Art. I've raved about Jackson's Art for ages, and I'm now an affiliate. And if you buy just a sheet of paper from Jackson's Art, it will come in a big box, and the box is the size of the paper. I always do artwork on quite big sheets of paper, and the box that Jackson's Art sends those sheets to me in is obviously bigger than that piece of paper. So once I add some like packaging material, like some grey board on top, it still fits into that outer box. So don't go out and buy cardboard boxes. Just use boxes that you get for your packaging materials. You can also make cardboard boxes out of cardboard you've got lying around, like as long as it's clean cardboard and it's dry. What I do is I take that cardboard and I cut it down, and I basically create a box out of that cardboard. If you just want to send something flat, you don't always need to go out and buy boxes. So I think I've covered most of the basics of packaging. There's so much that I've learned. I'll probably think of more things when I finish this podcast that I could have told you. But for now, I will leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got any questions about packaging, please just drop me an email. My email is georgie@georgieturnerartist.co.uk, or drop me a DM or a comment on YouTube, and I will try and answer them as best as I can. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Please don't forget to rate and review and drop me a comment. I will speak to you next week. Thank you so much. Bye.